Welcome to Gascoigne Hellman's latest Instagram Live, and we've been trying to vary things and do different topics and themes on our Instagram Lives, and today we're going to be looking at what it is like to be a first-time buyer. What is it like in 2025 if you're thinking of buying your first house? And I'm very pleased to be joined today by Mal Nowicka, who has just gone through the process of being a first-time buyer. So we're going to explore a little bit what that process was like. We're going to explore a little bit the process of the sort of property she bought, how she's found it, what have been the joys, what have been the pitfalls, and then I think, Mal, you might have some questions for me as well at the end.
Yes, I do. I'm well prepared.
Excellent. So we'll have a bit of a 50-50 split. So, Mal, tell us first of all, when you were searching for your home, how did you decide which area you wanted to live in? Was it just that you had to be very close to where you worked? Did you have a choice of places? What were the factors that made you think this might be a good area rather than that? Just give us a bit of a sense of what was your thought process.
Well, I feel like it was a series of thoughts, really. I mean, we looked at all sorts of locations. My partner works in Stoke. I work in Congleton, so really any distance between here and there was great. Which
is quite a broad area, quite a few areas could fit into that.
Yeah. I mean, we've lived in an area previously that wasn't too safe.
Okay.
We have a dog, and obviously it's important that I'm able to take the dog for walks without feeling nervous at night.
Okay, interesting. So
thinking
safety and security and perhaps children in the future. Yeah. These were your thoughts.
Yeah, and we've seen a few properties. We've seen a few that we absolutely loved, but actually a really good thing to do is check crime rates in the area.
And how do you do that? Is it on websites or is it you type in a postcode?
If you Google it, I think it's a police page, like the UK police page, and they basically give you stats on crime rates around the area.
Interesting.
And through that research, I actually found that Congleton was apparently one of the safest towns in Cheshire.
Right. Interesting.
Of crime.
Yeah.
And also, I work here as well, which definitely added as well to the location because I've got to experience it.
Yeah.
You've got quite a few restaurants, you've got quite a few bars, you've got great connection links to Manchester.
Yeah.
And all of that were factors.
Interesting. And did you and Sam, your partner, for example, when you started thinking about Congleton, did you, I don't know, go out for a meal in Congleton or come here on a Saturday and walk up and down the high street just to get a bit of a feel for the place?
Yeah, we did. Well, obviously I work here, so I'm here quite often, but we often go to the peaks as well. So we drive through here, often stopped for a meal.
Yeah.
I think another factor as well, we've got a dog.
Right, okay, interesting.
A lot of millennials will.
Yeah.
And we were partially buying for the dog.
Interesting. as in where we can walk the dog.
So we were looking at sort of walking areas, and our house is conveniently placed next to some playing fields and a nice meadow. So we do our walks every day.
Interesting. And that's a key part of your life, I guess.
And a primary school as well is actually like a 3 minutes walk because eventually.
Yeah, one day.
Probably have kids.
Yeah.
So again, it's really convenient.
So what I'm taking from that is that actually you did a lot of homework actually, in terms of research and thinking through the practicalities of life, not just about the bricks and mortar. You were looking at your whole life, I suppose, really.
Yeah, I think the approach we've taken with it. This initially wasn't our list. I think what we've done and what we really recommend for everyone else to do on the first house is view as many properties as possible. I think in our process we've viewed probably about 20, maybe up to even 30, which is a lot.
Now that's interesting. And what were you viewing? Were you viewing a certain type of house, like an older one or a newer one, or a project house, or were you looking at quite a range of different sorts?
So Sam's dad has historically renovated house, so he started from a terrace, then moved to a semi-detached, now he live in a beautiful 6-bedroom detached home, and
he worked his way up the market. Yeah,
that's sort of who we're inspired by.
Yeah.
So in our search, we're really looking for a property that has, what we were really looking for is a garage.
Right.
That you can possibly build over the top of,
okay.
And land as well.
Yeah.
And potential.
Interesting. Yeah.
But really, we've seen a mix again because we really wanted to get a feel for actually seeing it in person. What do we like? What do we not like? Is there something that we've not considered that we like?
And how did you find, for example, the Rightmove or the Zoopla listings of a property and what they showed you compared to what you actually then went to view? Did you find on the whole that it was a fairly accurate, what you thought you were going to see, you did see, or did some completely throw you?
Probably 50-50.
Okay, interesting.
I find that a
interesting.
lot of the
Yeah.
pictures are usually taken on like the 0.7 lens,
Okay,
where it
interesting,
makes
yeah.
the rooms look massive and spacious, and you actually go to the house and you're like, okay, it's a little bit smaller.
I've no idea what you're
Cozy.
talking about. Yeah.
It's cozy.
Interesting. Yeah. So some may have over flattered it, and then perhaps one or two the other way around, where actually you weren't that excited, but you thought,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it works both ways.
Yeah.
I think it's the way the pictures are taken, but it's also the house. Seeing it in person is completely different, because you get a picture of one point of view, but actually, you know, seeing a room completely, it does look completely different.
And out of interest, when you saw a property come up on one of the web portals and you wanted to view it, did you just book in a viewing straight away, or did you go and drive by it or walk by it first, or what was your process there?
I think we found through the beginning that the faster, as much as I'd say don't rush it, at the same time with the way that the market is moving, the faster you are, the better. In terms of getting to actually view it. Yeah. I mean, if a good property comes up, it can literally be hours before it gets snapped up. So we'd literally ring, even if I saw something midday at work, we'd call up straight away. And we had our notifications on as well. Yeah. From Rightmove.
You had all your alerts set up. So it's almost like get the viewing booked, and then we can look at it a bit more detail. Yeah,
we can think about it at home, have a look at everything else,
and research.
And then go see it. Yeah.
So talk to me. What did you see? You viewed 20, 25, 30 houses. What did you end up buying? Did you end up buying modern, new build, all done, or did you follow your partner's father and go for the doer-upper?
Well, there was two properties. There was one before this one that we were very, very keen to buy.
Okay, yeah.
And you'd think, I think it was on for about 180.
Okay, yeah.
And you'd think we were keen to offer more, because it was, again, a massive project house.
Right.
Completely run down. I'm now happy that we didn't buy it.
Okay, interesting. At the time, you really
like,
wanted
the
it.
vision's amazing. It's got so much potential.
Yeah.
And we were willing to offer over 50 grand more than the previous person.
Okay.
And they accepted the other person.
Did they? Now, why do you think that was?
It was because, so what happened is the other person was going through the process, and I think the lady had issues with a mortgage.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But she managed to resolve it as we have gotten into the process of purchasing. Yeah. But because she was already so much along the way, they just accepted her anyway, because it was quicker.
It seemed to be closer to the finish line.
I think the seller lived in America.
Right, yeah.
So they just wanted to get it done.
Just wanted to move it on.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
So it was a bit of a heartbreak.
So that was your heartbreak, and that then I assume led you into the other one that was the possible. So tell us what you ended up buying.
So we're currently in a 2-bed semi-detached.
Lovely, yeah.
In Westheath, here in Congleton.
Lovely. And was it in perfect condition, or was it another potential house?
No, it is a project home. We thought, well, it's definitely a lot less work than the heartbreak house that we could get. Yeah. But still turned out to be a lot more than I anticipated.
Okay, so we'll let's break that down a bit. So what did you think needed doing to it, and what were the things you ended up doing to it that you didn't have on your list originally?
So we thought we go in, start with upstairs, because I feel like upstairs, what happened is the man that lived there previously had dementia, had quite a few issues because his wife passed away. Yeah. So the house was in bad condition in a way where the carpets were ripped off, it was just floorboards. Wow. Etc.
So pretty basic.
Yeah. So we thought we'd start from the top, because it's the bedroom, the office, obviously the rooms that you use most. Yeah. And we thought we'd just add some extra plug sockets, paint the rooms. Yeah.
Give it a fresh look.
It's ordered. Yeah. Turned out that we had to do a full rewire.
Now, a rewire. Let's talk about that. So if you've never done a rewire before, it is quite a messy job. So just give us a bit of a view. Actually, what does a rewire entail? I mean, in terms of it's literally kind of getting behind that plaster, isn't it, and getting into the...
Yeah, so it's getting into the walls, chiselling the walls out, ripping out all of the cables, putting new cables in,
comply with all the regulations, and
all of that. Yeah, so it's a lot of work.
So loads of dust, loads of mess,
lots of fiberglass.
Now, were you, for example, living with Sam's family when this was being done, or did you live through it? Or
oh no, we moved straight in. So for about 8 months we lived in the living room.
As in, you lived there, you slept there,
So we had our office, bedroom, and living room in the living room with the dog. So it was quite tight.
Now talk to me. When you've been doing this for, I don't know, 6 months, do you think at this point, we've bought the wrong thing, or is it quite exciting, actually quite exhilarating to be working through this project, or is it a bit of both?
I feel like it's not exciting whilst you're working on it.
Yeah.
When you step back from it,
When you've completed the
when
work.
you've completed the work, it's so rewarding. I wouldn't change it for anything. And I think another thing as well that really sold the property for us is the community around the area.
Tell me more about that.
Well, our neighbour is lovely.
Yeah.
She's a retired lady that worked in an ambulance service for 12 years.
Hope you're watching today. You're being named probably as a very, very lovely neighbour.
If she's not, I'll send it to her later.
Yeah.
But she sold it to us, and I think it's really important to know who your neighbours are before you move in.
Interesting.
They can make or break it.
Interesting.
Especially if you're buying a terrace house or a semi-detached.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But they've been so lovely. They've been bringing us plants. When we were working, she brings us a Sunday dinner sometimes.
I'm loving this person.
I know,
yeah.
she's great. And then next door, sort of detached from us, we've got a young couple who are our age. But yeah, we've been over to theirs a few times
Great.
for a coffee, for a tea.
Socialise a little bit.
Yeah, we've been at a Christmas party at a different neighbours across the road. And it's that community feel you don't really get it anywhere else.
Quite interesting. So another good example of not just the bricks and mortar, but actually the whole.
Very important.
The whole
and
line.
it makes the experience.
And did you know about that? And obviously you've moved in now, and it's worked out really well. There are all these nice people around you. Did you know that before you moved in, or was that really something you just discovered as you went along?
We did about the lady that lives next door to us.
Yeah.
She literally came out every time we viewed the property.
Yeah, okay.
She's really lovely.
Yeah.
She told us all about the family that lived there before.
Right, gave you a bit of a background. And,
yeah. So I think she made us feel at home straight away.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so, and when you were in the process of buying a house, how did you work out what you could afford? If you see what I mean, you know, in terms of like, you know, what was your process? Did you speak to a mortgage advisor? Did you speak to a financial advisor? Did you, what was the process to work that out?
Well, we're working it out on sort of average mortgage payments a month.
Yeah.
Just seeing, okay, so how much can we actually afford?
Got it. Yeah.
And obviously we saw how much deposit we had.
Yeah.
And obviously worked it out with our sort of income as well.
Yeah. So you put it all.
Obviously, less would have been better because we're probably on the upper end of our budget with this property.
Yeah. And you've had your slight surprises like the rewire and this, that, and the other as well.
Yeah,
so you've been.
That's why we had to do it ourselves because funds were low. But I think taking into consideration, the lovely neighbours, the location, the primary school, the walking area, the closeness to work.
Yeah.
It was worth paying, the upper end of the budget, knowing that the location and the property is perfect, and again, such potential to, hopefully renovate and move up.
And tell me, so how much longer do you think it'll take you to finish it? I guess when you bought it, you thought you'd have it all done in, I don't know, a few months or whatever.
No, I'm loving this. This is literally like therapy.
This is good. I'm glad it's helpful to you. That's good.
Well, when we moved in, that's probably the most arguments that I had with my partner.
Yeah.
There was loads. I was under the impression it would take about a month to complete a room.
Okay, yeah, 1 room, 1 month, yeah.
And I must say there was a lot of pressure from me. I have apologised many times.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought that by sort of December we'd have all of upstairs done, including the bathroom, etc.
Yeah.
But it's been a year and we've just got 2 rooms.
So 1 year into it, we've done 2 rooms.
Yeah.
So it's more like 6 months. 6 months per room is actually more like the.
You get so many surprises. What you see, no matter how much research you do, you can't see into the walls. You can't see, what the wiring looks like. You can't see the pipe. You can't see all of the issues. And even the person that lived there previously probably didn't know the issues.
Did you have a survey on it before you bought it, or did you just rely upon Sam's father, who obviously knows about building? Yeah.
We didn't.
Would you, in retrospect, think you should have had a survey?
Do you think a survey would have told us about the potential rewire need?
I think the survey would have identified that as a possible risk. I suspect. Often surveys, they don't tend to be absolute, but often they will indicate, we've seen certain things here which. I think what they would probably have done is recommended that you get a specialist electrician to go out there and give advice on it, and so I think it may have taken you possibly in that direction.
Yeah,
so.
I mean maybe we should have had one. We did have Sam's dad look at it.
Yeah.
We viewed the property. Another tip that I would give: if you settle in on a property, view it how many times you need to view it. Don't feel bad about dragging the agents out there. Sorry, making more work for you.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen this property about 4 times
Okay,
in
interesting.
total.
Yeah.
Maybe even 5.
Yeah.
But it really, every time you see it, you'll see it in a different light.
Yeah.
Even like silly stuff like weather, seeing it in
Yeah.
the sunlight is completely different than seeing it when it's a bit.
I agree with that. And I remember many years ago, going back probably 15 years ago, I went to a property in a beautiful area near Kelsall, and it was a sunny day. I went there, you know, and I was sitting in the garden, and they made me this lovely non-alcoholic fruit cocktail, and we're looking at the view, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I remember at the time, I said, "What do you think the house is worth?" And I said, £550,000. And it's funny, a week later I went back to take the measurements and spend some time with it. It was chucking it down with rain, it was dark, and it was horrible. I remember walking around it thinking, gosh, this doesn't feel £550,000 now. It feels less than that, you know. And I remember, and anyway, we ended up selling it for £550,000. But it did teach me a lesson actually, that you can see a property very differently on different days, you know, and
exactly,
so that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you've been saying to me, which perhaps makes me reflect, is that I think the general feedback I'm getting is probably do your homework,
100%.
expect surprises, and
Yeah.
and although it may be slightly different with booking a viewing, don't rush. Would that be one of your sort of strong lessons here?
100%. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we know some friends that have seen the first property.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? Yeah, let's go for it. We love it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And then ended up actually dropping out. A lot of money wasted, a lot of time wasted.
Yeah.
So yeah, just take your time with it.
Interesting.
But be efficient at the same time, because you don't want to miss out.
So,
it's kind of, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
I suppose the more homework you do, the more you know what you want, and the more you know what you can afford, and therefore you're in a position to make a quicker decision. But I think it's not rushing the preparation, is it? Not rushing the homework, making sure you've got good mortgage advice at the beginning, making sure you have a good solicitor lined up. How did you find the legal process? You know, you've agreed to buy this house. Now they've got a solicitor, you've got a solicitor. Was that really quick? Was that really slow? Was that very frustrating?
Our solicitors were absolutely amazing.
Great. So good at communicating with you.
Very good at communication. Yeah. We've done lots of research. On like mainly looking at reviews.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
We found them. They were great. Yeah. The legal process. It was fine.
Yeah. How long did it roughly take from when you made the offer to when it?
I think it took about 8 weeks.
Well, that's very quick.
It was speedy. The communications from both sides were great, and that can slow it down sometimes.
Yeah, because the national average is almost 6 months, and I think probably within our company probably 3 months is probably closer to average. So 8 weeks, I'd say you did.
Very quick.
I suppose there was no chain on either side. There was because you were a first-time buyer.
No chain, yeah.
And I assume that the gentleman had moved out, so it was empty, and so I guess there was a lack of chain, which.
Yeah, no, it was really good. One issue that we did have is with a mortgage.
Yeah.
So my partner's credit was perfect.
Yeah.
I had some issues when I was at uni, and obviously your credit score goes back 10 years.
Yeah, and that's a long time ago, that, isn't it?
Yeah, wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've made some mistakes at university, which have kicked me a little bit with this process.
Interesting.
So yeah, we had an initial sort of meeting booked with the bank, spent 2 hours on a phone call.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you're going to have to pay 20% deposit.
Right. They wanted more. They wanted more upfront money.
But we ended up in the end going with like an online mortgage advisor.
Someone you could talk to, and someone you could.
Someone that kind of did. You know, we told them our situation. Obviously, it wasn't a singular bank. It was someone that worked with many different mortgage lenders.
Yeah.
So they sort of knew which direction we could go to get what we needed.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I mean, mortgage services. I've got a big mortgage services team, and actually we think one of the most important parts actually is that ability to have that conversation, whether it be face to face in the office or on Zoom or Skype or Teams, because actually, you know, a lot of the thing about finances, a lot of it is actually quite personal, isn't it? Because a lot of it is, what's my salary and how much deposit have I got, and what's my credit history like, and obviously that's quite a sort of important personal thing. And then there's the complexity of, well, I've got to put more deposit in, but then I need to rewire the or put a new bathroom in, and so actually, I think if there's one area of buying a house that really does need as much face-to-face personal contact as possible, I do think a broker or whatever has a massive part to play 100%. Actually, because it's. And I also think you're right. If you just go to, for example, if you've always just banked with Bank A or Bank B or Bank C, I think you're limiting yourself if you just go to them for your mortgage. I think actually to go to the market and see what the options are is
The thing is,
really important.
It's possibly the biggest purchase of your lifetime.
Yeah.
And you know, even getting the best rate, even if it's not 0.1 or not 0.2, that not 0.1 and not 0.2, if you take it over, 3-4 years, it makes a big difference. It's could be a couple £1,000 that you're saving on just stretching a bit further and speaking to someone like yourself and getting your history across to that person and then getting multiple options put in front of you as well.
I think it's about having menus. I think that's exactly right. And actually, Scott Burnley and the team at Gascoigne Harman, I think they very very good. For example, if you get something a little complex, which perhaps needs work or needs stuff doing to it, or whether the lender might get a little bit nervous about the work that might be required. Again, someone who can actually deal with the bank on your behalf. And actually, one of the things that we say is one of the best advantages of the mortgage services team is actually that the guys who do it in our business, they'll spend a lot of time on the phones to the banks. Actually, so that you don't have to, because actually there's pretty depressing being stuck in a 3-hour queue for a call centre or whatever when you're trying to do your working life and what have you.
So we've done both, so I know the difference, and I would definitely recommend speaking to an expert. Even we've had so much questions.
Yes.
That
about the process and
even just what the total actual payment would be.
Yeah. What's it going to cost me per month?
Yeah. Just so many questions. Obviously, we want to renovate the house as well. So when we remortgage, we're talking about can you actually put the difference towards the renovations of the house? Yeah. You probably know the right terminology for it. I do.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think even obviously you were a first-time buyer, but there are many people who might be buying a second or third home, and actually because you don't do it every year, things change, of course, and actually it's quite complex, and there's quite a lot of thought that has to go into it. So I think that's one of I would actually say before as a first-time buyer, before you go out there and look, probably getting mortgage advice is probably the first thing you should actually look at, because that's going to give you a lot of valuable information as to what you actually can afford and what the deals are 100%. Like, particularly when the rates are changing quite a lot. Yeah. Right, you've got some questions for me, haven't you? So ask away. I'll do my best.
So, when buying a project property, what do you think is the thing that adds most value? So we've bought a property that previously was a 3-bedroom property.
Yeah.
It has now been turned into a 2-bedroom and a large bathroom property.
Yeah.
And we're sort of in a pickle where, do we turn that big bathroom into a bedroom again?
Yeah. And
then have a very small bathroom downstairs?
Okay, yeah.
Or do we keep that upstairs bathroom as a big bathroom, which can potentially have, a shower separate to a bath, a big sink area, lots of space, and then still have the potential. We've got a bit of an extension on the ground floor, which we can turn into a study. So we'd have 2-bed study and a bathroom, or 3-bed. Tiny bathroom, and still a study, I guess.
Okay.
That stays.
Great question. Love that question. And when I'm looking at this, I think the question you're always trying to work out is who the buyer is going to be at the end. So let's look at it. So I'm assuming you're going to do this work. Take you a bit longer to get there. I assume you might live in it for a while and just actually enjoy it a bit, and just chill out a little bit and not be worrying about to do loads of work all the time. So enjoy the fruits of your labour.
Yep.
But let's say in, 5, 6, 7 years, whenever you come to sell it, and who do you think you'd be selling it to in 7 years? Would it be a family? Would it be a couple? Would it be a single person? Who do you, as best as you can tell, who do you think you might be selling it to?
With it being a family area with, primary school, high school, good links to, say, Manchester, Birmingham, I'd say it's probably a first or a second time buyer family, probably a couple.
Or maybe someone like yourself thinking of having children in the future.
Thinking of having children, maybe already have one, so I feel like that would probably be
who your market would be. Right, so on that basis, and every estate agent you speak to would have a different view on this, but I think from where you described it to me, I think the most likely is probably a couple, maybe initially on their own, maybe thinking of having one. And I think that they would probably make the same decision that you have actually, which is they would probably rather have a really good size upstairs bathroom with 2 really good sized bedrooms rather than the whole thing being compromised and having, maybe a much smaller bathroom or a bathroom downstairs. Because I think a couple would be basically pretty heavy. I think if it's your first home, if it's got 1 bedroom, it's probably enough. If it's got 2 bedrooms, it's certainly enough. But on a practical level, do you want to be walking down to have a shower? Do you want to be walking downstairs and going through the ground floor room to get to it? You probably don't. So I think, your target market at the end would probably really appreciate a really good 2-bedroom layout with a nice sized upstairs bathroom. If, for example, this might be a conversation in 7 or 8 years' time, but if you were buying on perhaps a modern housing estate within walking distance of a primary school, and you're pretty sure you're going to be selling that to a family with 2 or 3 children, I think probably the number of bedrooms might become more important to that person at that time, because at that point, you want to have breakout space for your children. So actually, on that situation, you might say, well, I'm better off having 4 smaller bedrooms than than 3 bigger ones. Likewise, if you thought your buyer at the end might be, for example, a downsizing couple, often they don't need 4 or 5 bedrooms. They're quite happy with 3 good ones. So I think it's all about working out who you think. You can't be sure, can you? But who you think your buyer will be and what you think it will be. And often, you as a current owner, it's likely that someone like you is going to want to buy it in 7 years' time. So I'm going to say, stick to 2 bedrooms and your big bathroom upstairs. I think that's going to help you sell it and maximise your value, rather than squeezing in a third and getting it all wrong. Is that the right answer?
Yep, I was hoping for that, because I don't want to take the bathroom out.
Great. I think you've done the right thing.
Yeah, I'm completely happy with that.
Good. What does Sam think?
I think he's the same. I mean, obviously we've got all of the plumbing up there.
Yeah.
It's no longer downstairs, so we'd have to take away all of the appliances, all of the plumbing, and replumb it downstairs.
And I feel like that would be costly as well. So I think on every level, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Great.
Take that advice
Good with
on
that.
board.
Anything more you want to ask me?
I've got a list of questions.
You go excellent. Fire away.
So I don't want to ask you one that we've already discussed.
Mm.
What do you think is the most common mistake that first-time buyers make?
I think the most common mistake that first-time buyers make is probably not early enough in the process getting good mortgage advice. I do think that's a biggie. The worst time to start looking into that is after you've had an offer accepted. That's it's all the wrong way round. I think the earlier in the process you can sit down with someone and talk to people and get an understanding. And by the way, you might speak to more than one mortgage expert to try and get a thing. I mean, it's I've had a client recently and they spoke to ourselves and another person, and actually they got similar advice from both, but that was quite reassuring to them, because they then felt they were on the right track with it. So I think one of the most common mistakes is not getting that advice early enough. And I think the other thing, which you've sort of identified already, is not doing your homework, really, not working out what you really, really want. So I think that, for example, again, do the test commute, if you like. If you have to commute from the house to an office or whatever, do that pretty early in the process. Don't do that a week before you're about to exchange contracts and find out it's too long. So I think the more you can do early, and as you rightly say, generally speaking, the worst decisions often are the ones made in a mad hurry without thought.
100%.
So, but I think the foundation, like a house, you get the foundations right, and I think the foundation is actually understanding your numbers, understanding your finances, understanding your stretch points. And I think also I would say, probably not doing research on solicitors is another key one, because two good solicitors dealing with it makes such a massive difference. So actually, and speaking to estate agents is quite a good thing, because estate agents deal with solicitors all the time and tend to know who delivers quickly and who doesn't deliver quickly, and who we can communicate with and who we can't. You might have people in the office, they might have moved house, or who did you use, what was the experience like. So I think it's almost like you want your legals ready, in terms of who you're going to use, your mortgage and your finance all worked out, so that actually when you are viewing, you're doing so in a position of strength. So I think that's probably the most common mistakes.
Do you think a mortgage in principle is enough?
Well, it's a starting point, but it's not probably enough, because you can get a mortgage in principle pretty. It is so easily, isn't it? And there's so much more to it than that, as doubtless you have found out, And so again, if Scott and his team are sort of financially qualifying people, someone says, I've got a mortgage agreement in principle. Well, that's fine, that's okay as a starting point, but you've got to dig deeper into that. I think
it gives you like a false confidence, really, doesn't it?
It can give you some quite crazy figures. So I would say it's no substitute that for actual quality advice. I would say, and you've probably been through a similar thing
as well. I mean, we've
I thought on the mortgage, did you fix for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Did you go for one of these tracker mortgages? What did you end up doing?
See, we went for 3 years.
3 years,
I mean, the mortgage advisor we spoke to predicted that hopefully the rates will be going down. I'm hoping that happens.
I was going to say,
In today's days, you never know. But we also thought within the 3 years we'd have everything that we do now done. So the upstairs, bathrooms, the hallway, and the living room.
Yeah.
And then we're hoping to have the property revalued.
Yeah.
And then take some out
Got
to
it.
do an extension on the kitchen in 3 years.
Yeah.
So that was the thought process that we had.
Yeah. Interesting.
And also for the time, the rate that we got was quite good.
You were happy with it?
So we didn't quite want to go for 2 years just in case things didn't change that much yet. So we went for 3 years.
I think it's different for everyone, and taking individual advice is always the thing. But I think there is, if you know you can afford that, it's within your range. There is a certain, I think, mental sort of, I think, the certainty that I know what I'm doing for 3 years. I think it's not a bad idea. That I think that's it. Okay, so we're right at the end. You've got time for one more question for me. So anything more? Make it a good one. Or make it one that I can answer. What
red flags should first-time buyers watch out for when viewing properties?
Okay, I think what I would say is, actually going back to our earlier conversation, if you do have a survey on a property, surveys do need interpretation. Surveys can be a bit ambiguous, but they probably give you some decent signposts as to big warnings. So I would say that is probably one. And I think if a property is in auction, for example, I think it will be there for a reason. And I think you've got to try and understand what that reason is. Is there a structural problem? And that would probably be. It's not saying don't buy it, but I'm just saying it would be a red flag in terms of, well, why is it at auction and what are the issues that I might encounter with this?
Say you're viewing the house for your very first time and you're going to the property. What do you think, other than I want 2 bedrooms and a big garden? What things do you think you should sort of look out for around the property?
I think you're looking for example, if you're in the garden, you'd be looking at the boundaries. Are there clear, defined boundaries? What's the condition of the boundary fences? Probably, just glancing at the plug sockets would probably tell you something about the electrics. Not to say you shouldn't get a proper electrical survey done, but that might give you a bit of a clue. Corners of rooms, is there any damp there? Is there any patching? When you're looking at outside of the brickwork, are there any zigzag lines, stuff like that? Those are ultimately you want to get professional advice from people who really know. But in terms of sort of initial, sort of
top level.
Top level things to keep an eye out for. I would say that, but also not a bad thing in amongst all of that sensible stuff. You've got feeling about property as well. Do I like the road? Do I like the street? Do I like the look of it? How do I feel about being here? Sometimes you can have a wonderful house that is really genuinely wonderful, but you don't quite get the feel for it. And if you don't get the feel for it, then
sometimes it's worth looking at the houses around your property as well.
It is
having a walk around all the other streets and seeing, who lives there. The house is nice. Does it look like a family home?
Do people care? Do people care for them?
People care for it.
All
it gives
of
you a good feel for the community that you're going to be living in.
Not just the house, the whole thing. Well, there we go. Look, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your first-time buyer experience with us. It's been really, really interesting to hear that.
We need to do part 2.
We really appreciate it, and I'm glad it's been good therapy for you as well. So the Gascoigne Howman Instagram Live therapy sessions are available to you as well. So do contact us with your property story, and if there's any topics or themes you'd like us to tackle, we'd be keen to hear from you. And we'll see you next time on Gascoigne Howman's Instagram Live. Thank you for joining us today.